Good morning. Welcome to No Buts About It. We are a football channel, but World Cup season is coming up and we are getting hyped. Let's roll the intro.
What's up, everyone? That was Stan's first time doing that. Stan, the Jet fan, but today he's Stan, the soccer fan, and that's because the World Cup's coming up, and I don't know anything about soccer. I know there's a little black and white ball involved, and that's about it. Here you can't use your hands. So what we're gonna do is we got Stan here. He's gonna act as our translator because I know about the NFL. And Alvarado knows a little bit about the NFL, but not a whole lot, but he knows a ton about soccer. And then Stan knows about both. So we're going to try to put the World Cup in the NFL terms. So first off, before we get started, what is the World Cup? Well, it's a tournament of 48 countries representing the best from their regions. So that's 16 from Europe, 9 from Africa, and 1 from Oceania. Then, when is the World Cup? About a month away, June 11th to July 19th. And what's special about this World Cup is it's in North America. We got the U.S., we got Canada, we got Mexico, three countries. It's right here at home. Is this the first time the World Cup has been played in North America, guys?
It is not the first time. I think there's been about 3 of them, at least. Okay. 3, maybe 4 in the U.S. And Mexico.
So, yeah, I have no idea. I was just interested. I don't know if either of you want to jump in, say anything here before we get started.
Well, you mentioned the 48 countries. That this is the first time we're seeing that in the World Cup. The World Cup up until this point has actually only been 32 countries. So you're seeing a lot more countries getting involved. And, you mentioned 3 of those continents, Europe having 16 as the most dominant region in the sport of soccer. That's a bit of a game changer. You're seeing a lot more countries that would have gotten snubbed in past years getting involved. You mentioned 1 in Oceania. In previous tournaments, Oceania, because of how small and not good at soccer they are, they only had half a spot in the World Cup, which means most of the time they didn't even make it because they would lose their half of the spot to a different continent. But now they have a full spot. So they finally made it with the 48 teams. So there's going to be a lot more countries and a lot more smaller countries getting involved, which is something that I think makes it a lot more fun. What are your thoughts, John, on the new format?
Jonathan, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the new format?
There's been a lot of pros and cons to it both. Obviously, with 48 teams, it gives more countries the opportunity to qualify, to kind of battle it out. In World Cup history, to kind of mention what Stan has said, right, Europe has been the most dominant. Usually it's a European country that has won the most World Cups, here and there with the exception of Brazil having 5, or it's South American regions that have won the World Cup. So it's a good opportunity for more countries to kind of get a piece of the pie. However, on the opposite end of it, like Stan said, it was 32 countries, usually with it being 48 countries right now. Some people are more so kind of interested to see how this World Cup's going to go because the fact that there are more countries, it makes there are rumors out there that the World Cup feels less prestigious. There's rumors that it could be expanded to 64 countries. So then all of a sudden it's everybody gets an invitation to the World Cup. So it'll be an interesting World Cup year to see with 48 countries how it plays out. I think 48, okay, it's not too much, but I am a little curious to see how this is going to compare to the 32 countries that we're so used to having here in World Cup history. But nevertheless, it's a World Cup year, and I am excited.
So, anytime you have, not that this is necessarily a playoff, but some sort of playoff expansion or tournament expansion, there are those talks of, well, it's not really going to make a difference because these new teams that didn't get in before, they're not going to make a difference. So is that kind of the talk with the World Cup? Like these countries that weren't invited before, they're not going to be significant?
I think it makes a pretty big difference based on which continent you're talking about. Because when you're looking at Europe, for example, with their 16 spots, which is a ton of countries to have involved in the tournament, one of the countries that got snubbed was Italy, a country that has won World Cups before. Which I think only 6 countries, 5 countries have won a World Cup. It's a very small group of countries that have won that. Italy's part of that very prestigious small select group, and they didn't even make this with their region having 16 countries. So I don't think you're going to see any dilution in quality from a continent like Europe, at least as much as you might see from a continent like Oceania or New Zealand, who probably would not have made this World Cup within a mile and a half this time around, are now getting basically a free spot.
To put it into perspective, I mean, to kind of like what Stan said, Brazil has 5, but then you're going to notice a bit more European here. Germany having 4, Italy having 4, France having 2, Argentina having 3. I believe England and Spain each have 1, and Uruguay have 2. So a nice mix of South American and European. The majority, though, people do typically put those European countries at the top. So it'll be interesting. The one not controversy, but the counter argument to what Stan was saying as well, just to throw it out there, is people are afraid that there's going to be some big beatdowns. So if we have a country, no disrespect to these countries, but a country like Jordan, for example, going up against an Argentina, for example, could it be possible we see one of the biggest World Cup beatdowns, such as like a 6-0, 4-0 games? But at the same time, I'm trying to remember it, right? Every country that has come here, with the exception of the hosts, had to go through some sort of qualifying tournament. So they're at least currently the best of the best in their region at this moment, or they got a little bit lucky, such as the exception of Italy. People are calling them frauds because this is now the 3rd World Cup they haven't made it. So I can for sure at least guarantee by the time we get to the knockout stages, we're going to be seeing some pretty good, entertaining games at the very least.
Okay. So Italy's a fraud, even though Italy's won a bunch. So like they're the Steelers. They're the Steelers of today.
From your perspective, yes. I think Chelsea disagree, but
well, maybe that's a good time for us to. Is it time for us to get into these player comps, kind of learning who these players are?
Let's do it. But I think John's going to go over the U.S. group games first.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much USA being one of the hosts, I believe. This will be, I believe, Canada's first time hosting. I know Mexico have hosted the World Cup before in 1970, 1986, and 2026. As far as the USA, before, they've only they're co-hosting this year, and I'm not 100% sure the times the US have hosted it, but all eyes are on the US, since though they are co-hosting with Canada and Mexico, they are kind of the hosts that are having the most games, so they're kind of being seen as the primary hosts, you could say. The USA are going up against Paraguay, Australia, and Turkey. So there's mixed reviews. Some people say it's a hard group. Some people say it's an easy group. I kind of think, with the exception,
I think he cut out there.
He'll come back. But Stan, maybe while we're waiting on Jonathan here, what is a group?
So the World Cup, before you get to the tournament, the knockout part of the cup, the teams are split into groups of 4. Now, in the traditional 32-team format, the way that would work is the top 2 teams go into the knockout while the bottom 2 teams go back home. In the new format with 48 teams, now you have an uneven amount of uneven amount of spots allocated for each group. Some of the 3rd place teams will also go into the knockout round. So that's a brand new concept that I think is going to allow a lot of sort of mid-tier countries that may not be as lucky as they needed to be before. They'll be able to make it through just with a win and maybe a draw or 2. Compared to in the past, you needed really 2 wins, or you needed to be lucky with the way the other teams in the groups kind of worked it out to make it through. It's going to be a lot easier for teams to make the knockout tournament. Now, Alvarado was beginning to talk a little bit about the situation with our group being believed to be easy. Australia was the team he mentioned. Australia, we played them. I believe they actually we beat them. I think 2-1, and we should beat Australia in the World Cup. That's a team I think most American fans are pretty confident in. But they're a team that I think plays very well in possession. They're a very smart team. And one of the things you'll notice in the World Cup with the difference of qualities is teams have to change their style a bit. So when you see a small team versus a big team, they'll try to play out of possession because they can't hold the ball that long. They're not good enough to. So they'll try to have a lot more quicker attacks and focus more on defending and then try to get a goal in like maybe a minute or two, compared to a very good team might play in possession. Australia, I think, is one of those lower quality teams that kind of punches above their weight. I don't know if Alvarado wants to add anything about Australia. But while you were gone, I just talked about the format a bit more, and then we talked about Australia. We're going to talk about the other two teams in a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, Australia, not a dark horse of the World Cup, but they're probably going to be the country that make or break the U.S.'s hopes or dreams, I would personally say. I think they have a challenging matchup against Turkey. They're definitely able to beat Paraguay and Australia. It's just a matter of, will they have one of those good games, or will Paraguay and Australia kind of, like Stan said, tactically plan going against them that will tear the dreams of many Americans this year?
Yeah. Now, Turkey, out of the three teams, they were one of the teams that didn't automatically qualify. So they actually had to go through an extra round or two of games to make it to the tournament because they weren't able to get those 16 European spots right off the bat. But I actually think despite that, Turkey might be the hardest team for the U.S. to play here. They have some of the best players in the world. I mean, players who are playing at teams like Real Madrid, under the brightest lights, so many players in the Premier League playing top-notch soccer that I think the rest of this group doesn't really have. Like Australia doesn't really have players playing at the top levels in Europe. America, we have some, but I think about half of our roster will be lower level leagues. And then Paraguay, they have a good amount of higher level, but they have an even split as well. What are your thoughts on Turkey?
Yeah, Turkey, it's hit or miss because, like you said, Stan, they had to play a few extra games. So some people might think, oh, Turkey isn't really that good of a country because they didn't automatically qualify. Well, remember, Europe is a competitive continent, and some might argue that because Turkey had to go under the pressure of playing those few extra knockout games in order to qualify to the World Cup, okay, they already have gotten some experience under the bright lights with a lot of pressure. Hey, if you lose, you're out of the World Cup. So them coming into this might be a good thing, at the fact that they played a few extra games, because again, okay, we've already been under pressure. We're going to be fine going into this group. So I think that's really the only little idea that I have about Turkey. I don't know if this could be controversial. I think Turkey is probably, aside from the U.S., could be one of the favorites of winning this group.
So, hang on.
Yeah.
As just a guy, just a dude right here. I'm an American. I like my steak medium rare. What am I rooting for here to get the U.S. out of this group? Because it's not one and done, right? Mm-hmm. The groups aren't one and done. So what am I rooting for the U.S. to get them out of this group and further on and get a World Cup win?
So to basically have a guaranteed moving on to the tournament, you need 2 wins. That will do it basically no matter what. Any result lower than that, and you have 3 games in the group. So if they get like a win and 2 draws, that would probably do it. But technically, with the way other groups turn out, they may not make it through just on the 3rd spot. But it could happen like that. I'd say if they get a win and 2 draws, they're almost definitely going through, maybe like 90%. If they get anything lower than that, then you're going to be worried, and they might not make it through, even if they have that third place spot that sometimes will go on if you're one of the better 3rd place teams, but in most cases will not.
So 2 teams from each group move on, and then possibly a third. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's like the NFC South. Like, the NFC South just sucked, and so maybe they're second place, or not the AFC. Excuse me, I messed that up. It's like the NFC West. The NFC West was really good, so they got 3 teams into the playoffs. And so because even their third place team was better than a lot of other divisions, second place teams.
Exactly.
So, okay, I got you. I'm with you now.
But I do think it's pretty realistic for the U.S. team, and it's with all 4 of the teams in our group. I'd say they're about the same level. I think we are slightly higher than the other teams besides Turkey. I think we're in the number 2 spot, and then we have a good amount of space between Paraguay and Australia. But with the quality of the teams in our group, these games are going to be pretty close. I expect either way. And the final team to talk about is Paraguay. Now, they're kind of not in a great moment right now. They have a lot of their better players who are just getting older, aging out of their system. Not a whole lot of players playing at the top levels of the game compared to past years. But I think Paraguay, because they still have some good attackers in this group specifically, the U.S. does not have a great defense. Australia does not have the best defense. They have a fine defense. Turkey has a really good defense, but those other 2 teams, I could see Paraguay winning just by getting enough goals on the U.S., getting enough goals on Australia. What are your thoughts about them?
Yeah, Paraguay is a fascinating team as they've been doing really well in qualifying for the World Cup. However, if we kind of wind back a little bit, the USA beat Paraguay in some friendly games. So some Americans might be thinking, right, this should be a game that we should easily win. Like you said, Stan, they have great attackers. It's part of the reason they did so well in the qualifying rounds over in South America. You underestimate Paraguay, they could really cause some big damage to you. And again, I think that's going to be one of the teams that make or break USA coming in second, third, or heaven forbid, probably even not qualify to the knockout rounds.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think Paraguay might have even beat Brazil on the way to this World Cup in that group. And like Brazil's a team that I think very likely will win the World Cup. I think they're in my top 4 for teams when I'm looking at them. Mm-hmm. So like Paraguay coming from South America, they've had to play such a extreme level of competition just to make it to this moment. Similar to Turkey, I think they're going to be a lot more hardened and a lot more prepared.
How common is it for like one of the hosting countries to not make the tournament?
So the hosting countries always make the tournament. They get automatic spots. That's part of the reason why the World Cup was moved to 48, because FIFA wanted to get multiple countries hosting the same World Cup. So right now, the U.S., Mexico, Canada, 3 countries, we're taking 3 spots from the North American continent. So host countries always make it.
Okay.
And then one of the things that people are talking about a lot leading up to the U.S., Mexico, and Canada's first games, because all 3 of our countries are not at their peaks right now. They're kind of mid, all 3 of us. North America is kind of a mid-continent right now for soccer. But we have a lot of upside on all 3 of those teams. So a very interesting talk is going to be about whether the 3 teams can get out of their groups as teams that have young, talented players. They've been able to accomplish things in the not-so-distant past. But right now, they're kind of all in a little bit of a regression.
Okay. I'm getting it. We're not good at soccer, but we're undefeated Super Bowl champions. So
you know what we are good at, though? What Americans are maybe better at than most of the world combined? At being patriotic, being American. USA, baby. So let's jump into the American players. The first one, his nickname is Christian Pulisic. His nickname is Captain America. Also nicknamed the LeBron James of soccer. Jonathan, do you want to introduce our first player?
Yeah, right. So this is probably the most prolific player from the United States, Christian Pulisic. Guy has had a lot of Achievements so far with the U.S. Of course, one of the downsides, though, one of the achievements he hasn't had recently is performing well at the World Cup necessarily, right? In 2018, he was very young, but he was part of the USA teammates, people in general that didn't qualify for the tournament. Coming over to 2022, they got eliminated in the first knockout games. Back then, it was the round of 16, which would now be the round of 32. But he's the guy that has been playing in Europe. He was kind of one of those first players that started playing in Europe, and thus came the whole other crew of players that we'll kind of get into in a little bit. But the ongoing joke with Captain America is Americans kind of put this guy higher than he actually is. They almost put him on a pedestal up there with Messi and Ronaldo, when really he's not necessarily even close to being up there. He's better than most, probably one of the best players we've ever had here in the U.S. But when, like Stan said, North America in general is kind of mid when it comes to this sport. So he's one of the best in the area compared to the rest of the world. All right, he can kind of keep up with the rest of the European individuals, but he's no LeBron James soccer. So definitely recommend watching that episode of Pawn Stars if you ever want to hear more about it.
Yeah, that's like the one episode of Pawn Stars I've watched because of that. I had to see it. It was so funny when that thing happened. But I've seen that clip so many times of LeBron James of soccer. Crazy stuff. But one of the things we talk about with American media is how we overhype players. We have the 24-hour news cycle, and it leads to a lot of crazy things being said on network TV. So I think just one of many players who get overhyped by our system. But that's why the player comp I have for him, quarterback, Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young. Now, Bryce Young is not hyped by the media right now the way he is, the way Pooley is. But a couple of years ago, when you remember young Bryce Young, I mean, this kid was being talked about like he was at a completely different level. But one thing he and Pooley both have, aura, a ton of aura. Okay, these guys, they got swag dripping out. They're both very good players too. Like Bryce Young is not a bad quarterback. It's just he will never reach that kind of way too high potential people placed on him earlier in his career. And Pooley, he went to a club called Dortmund when he was young. He went to Europe at probably the age of 15, 16. He was playing with players overseas. So he had so much hype around him, similar to Bryce Young. I think that distorts a lot of the conversations about those two players, but they're both very good players, right? Panthers fans, you're happy that Bryce Young is your quarterback. And Americans, we should be happy that Pooley will be our winger. And moving on, the form right now for Pooley, I will say, as Alvarado mentioned, not very good. I mean, recently for the U.S., he's not shown up. Before his club, he's probably been one of the reasons they're not doing too well right now. I mean, he's been very, very poor for them. And if you look at the longer scope of Pooley's career, I would say he's had one of the most successful careers overall for an American in Europe. I mean, he's played in this thing called the Champions League, which is kind of the height, I would say, of soccer altogether, perhaps more than the World Cup.
I thought the World Cup was the biggest thing. There's something beyond the World Cup?
Champions League is for clubs, so like teams. So you have players from different countries. So you could get a lot better with those. But for clubs, and really, I'd say in terms of the hype and the conversation, this is the biggest. This also happens only once every 4 years, so it's a much more special event than a Champions League. But I was just saying in terms of the quality of what Pooley had to play at, he played at a higher level than most Americans ever will. So just one last note I wanted to leave about him. Let's move on to the second player we have, Weston McKennie. Alvarado's going to intro him a little more.
Is he?
Hello. Okay. Well, I'll talk about Weston McKennie a little bit. So he's with a club called Juventus, and I'm sure a lot of Americans would recognize the name of that club. They're pretty big in the American market. They're in media all the time. I see them on ads for like Adidas all the time. They were at the White House recently. So Juve, as far as clubs go, I think are more so a club that Americans might be aware of. But he's one of their better players. He's actually having the best season of his career right now, I would say. Do you have any thoughts on McKennie?
McKennie is an interesting player because he's been at Juventus for quite a while, and he has seasons where it kind of comes like a roller coaster. Fans, not even just the U.S., but Juventus fans in general, one month they'll be saying he's the worst player on their team. They need to sell him, and then a few months go by, a few more games pass by. All of a sudden, he's the only player on the team that's fighting for the badge. He's giving it all. Every time the season ends, all right, we need to sell him to another club. We don't want him anymore. And then there's a few weeks go by. No, we need to keep him or such. So guy's very, very interesting when it comes to the support that he has. However, I think he's going to be one of the more key players for the U.S. because if there's one thing about Weston McKennie is regardless of 1 week he's playing well for Juventus and another week he's not doing well. When it comes to the United States, Weston McKennie typically tends to ball out. He's one of the guys that typically has the team on his back. I'd argue that if Pulisic is having a terrible form, Weston McKennie is kind of one of the guys that people can depend on primarily.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen an athlete in any American sport kiss the U.S. flag while games as much as Weston McKennie. Like he's so passionate about playing for the national team, and I think that's something that if you're watching this, someone who may not have watched soccer since the last World Cup, I think you could appreciate that about him, and a lot of these guys too. Like we've had a lot of fights and skerfuffles in the last couple of years with this group of players, and I appreciate how passionate they get about this country and representing this country because it is really hard, the odds they have to go through to make it to these rosters, right? These are the 20-ish best players from America and then a couple guys who made it just because. But we could talk about that some other time. But like to make it to this level, these guys have put in so much work. One of my favorite players, Ricardo Pepi, I have his jersey right there next to me. Ricardo Pepi would drive 10 hours twice a month because he lived in a rural part of Texas where they didn't really have soccer training camps. So he had to drive 10 hours to Dallas because they didn't have the infrastructure for his level of training anywhere else as a kid. And eventually he played in the U.S. system, moved to Europe. So I think you see a lot of passion. And Weston McKennie is a player I think who exemplifies that on the U.S. team. He also has a lot of cool nicknames. Partially because he's, fat, but they call him Big Mac in Europe. They really like talking about. He plays in Italy, and a lot of his players they joke about him with him about his weight. Now he is at like the best weight of his career right now. He's pretty healthy, but there were a couple of seasons, the last 2 years, there were a few different moments where his teammates kind of stepped out and had to say like, "Hey, dude, you got to lose the weight. You got to stay healthy and be fit for us." But, when you go to his Wikipedia, one thing you'll see about him is the first thing you'll see is Swiss Army knife. I think that explains him perfectly, and that explains what he does for the U.S. perfectly. You'll see him defending, fighting in the box. You'll see him running full speed up. He'll have great passes. He'll have goal here and there. He does a little bit of everything for the U.S. So that's another reason why he's a fun player. The player comp we have is this last season's version of Phil Rivers, partially because they were both kind of thick, needed to lose some weight, but also they're very smart players. And despite not being perhaps the at the physical peaks of their careers, they're able to use their minds to read the game well, and they're able to be very effective through that. They're also distributors. Weston McKennie, he's a great passer. That's my favorite part of his game. The way he's able to see parts of the field that, you're looking at this guy's kicking the ball halfway across the field. How does he even see the guy open there? He's a very smart player. And he has great vibes. He is the vibes guy of this team for me. Again, like kissing the badge, kissing the flag. He cares about this so much. He gets so passionate, and I absolutely love it. And that's the thing I've always loved about Phil Rivers, right? If you remember him getting that 90-yard touchdown and screaming 90-yard touchdown, right? That passion. Weston McKennie, you're going to see that same passion from him.
Yeah, I love Phil Rivers, man. He was wheeling and dealing last season. So like I'm loving the US team. You know, we got Captain America, we got Big Mac. You know, I'm a bigger guy myself, so I'm all for it. And Phil Rivers, he almost beat the Super Bowl champion Seahawks last year when he was leading. So I don't care how old he is. If Big Mac's like that, we got a team here.
Yeah. He also, you probably heard of the player Cristiano Ronaldo, Josh.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, so he's in that GOAT discussion. But Ronaldo also gave him the nickname Texas Boy, which tells you a lot about him. Weston McKennie does love Texas a lot. He wears a cowboy hat a lot, so maybe you'll see a little bit of that. I don't know if they're playing in Dallas in the summer. I think they're playing more towards the West Coast in LA. But if they are, I'm sure he'll bring that out there. Another nickname I like is Spaghetti Weston. Just a fun nickname. He has a lot of fun nicknames. I like him. He has a good vibe. The next player looks like John is a little bit out with the Wi-Fi right now, so I'll intro the next player. Folarin Balogun, nickname Flo. Kind of simple, kind of nice, and it tells you a lot about the player he is. He's a very simple player. I think a lot of players, a lot of like fans aren't going to notice him as much until he scores the goals because he's very quiet. He'll do his thing. You may not think much of him, but when he makes his impact, you will notice it. And Folarin Balogun, he plays right now in France for Monaco, and he's having a pretty good season. He's been doing well with them. Right now, he has more goals in Europe than any American player. He and Weston McKennie right now have the best form out of any American players we're going to see in this World Cup. It sounds like John is back. Do you have any thoughts on Balogun?
Yeah, Balogun is one of those players that I haven't really kept up much just because I don't watch the French league. However, he's been doing all right. One of the more prolific players. I mean, in 28 games, he's got 13 goals, 3 assists. So he's one of the players that I think is definitely going to make the squad 100%. I think he has every argument to be there. One of the only things that I think people were worried about, he hasn't been playing too much for the U.S. just due to suffering an ankle injury back in March, so he had missed a call-up from the U.S. I still think this is a player that is kind of going to be up there leading the line, if not him, Ricardo Pepi most likely. So I think he's one of the 2 strikers that the USA needs to depend on, and whether or not he or Pepi have a good World Cup, I think it's going to determine how well the USA do as well.
Well, I like Pepi as much as anyone could, and I could prove it right there. But I do think Balogun will definitely be on the roster. He'll definitely be the starter. I mean, I think he might be top 5 in France right now with goal contributions. And he had one stretch this year, I think, where he had 8 games with a goal in every game. And Josh, I know you don't know a lot about soccer, but goals are pretty hard to come by.
Is a goal contribution different than a goal?
Goal contribution is different than a goal.
Is that like an assist?
Yeah, but he doesn't get a lot of assists. He's mainly a goal scorer. He's not the best passer. The way he plays, he just runs in the system. And then the passers, you get him the ball, he scores. He's very simple, but he does his job very, very well. And I think they were able to beat PSG, or at least draw against PSG in a game where he had 3 goal contributions. I think it was 2 goals and assists. PSG is arguably the best team in the world. So this guy right now, he's in one of the best leagues in the world, playing some of the best competition in the world, and he is looking like one of the best players in the world. I think if we have success this World Cup, he is going to be the number 1 reason, the number 2 reason why we have that success. And my comparison for him is T'Vondre Sweat, because T'Vondre Sweat, when you think about him as a player, he's very simple, right? Like, T'Vondre Sweat, a little different than Balogun. He's more physically gifted, and that's why he has a simple play style. But Sweat, he does his job. He's a workhorse. He's a system player. And if you're running that sort of system, he will do great. When you're not running that sort of system, not the best fit perhaps, but he knows what his job is and he does it well. That's who Balogun is to me.
Okay. And
Now,
he's over in France right now, though?
yeah, he's in the country of Monaco, but the league they play in is France.
Okay.
And France is a top 5. One thing in soccer we talk about a lot are the top 5 leagues. That would be the Premier League, which is in England, Serie A in Italy, Ligue 1 in France, the Bundesliga in Germany, and I'm forgetting someone.
Spain?
Oh yeah, Spain, La Liga in Spain. So those are like when you're playing against those teams, you're playing the best of the best. And most of the players we're going to talk about today are playing in those leagues. I think all of them that we have listed are, except one of them. But the next guy we're talking about, he has a lot of cool fun facts about him, a lot of interesting things. Why don't you start us off?
Yeah. Well,
not me, I hope.
I'll get us off. Yeah, so Tim Weah is one of those guys that can play a wide variety of positions, right? People have played him in the midfield. They played him as a defender, as a right back. They've even played him as a winger up top. So he's a guy that I think is going to be very, very useful. Fun fact about him, his father, George Weah, was president of Liberia and perhaps one of the best African soccer players of all time. So this guy is definitely very, very useful when it comes to if you need a guy that can play multiple positions. He's definitely the guy to depend on. However, I think the most recent news USA-wise, some people are scared he might not even make the team as this is a whole conversation for a different day, but USA or the World Cup tickets in general are costing an arm and a leg and possibly a mortgage just to get there. And he was one of the USA players to speak out against this and kind of just mentioned, hey, I kind of just want this sport to be affordable for all people to be there. Otherwise, it's kind of just going to be the rich people going. And his coach kind of shut him down and had mentioned, hey, we don't really need people talking about this. Let the people focus on them, and you need to focus on the team. And so that's kind of divided some fans saying, oh, no,
we lost it. The dang Pittsburgh internet.
Well, I think I know where he was going with that. So there was that controversy recently. Oh, he's back. Okay, you got
it. Terrible. Oh, bad internet day here. But so some people are afraid that he's not going to make the team. I personally think if you leave him out of the team, you'd be missing out on a good player that can play multiple positions. But yeah, some people are definitely scared he might not even make the team just due to kind of standing up for the fans.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely be there. I mean, he's been such a big part of the U.S.'s success in the last couple of years. And, when we look at the team all together, similar to Weston McKennie, he has kind of that Swiss Army knife approach to the game. He's able to do so much. You mentioned his dad, one of the greatest, if not the greatest African player of all time. His dad never played in a World Cup, right? He played for Liberia. But Liberia never had enough good players around them to make it to the World Cup. And back then, we talked about, you mentioned earlier, Africa having 9 spots, I think. I think they only had 4 back then, maybe less. They just, in a smaller World Cup format. So Liberia never made the World Cup. His dad never made it there. But now Tim Weah making his second World Cup. His dad also, as John mentioned, president of Liberia. So pretty cool guy there. Pretty cool story there. And my player comp for him is Travis Hunter, playing both offense and defense. And the funny kind of tagline I attached here is he would make more money playing offense, and Weah, as a winger, would make more money on his contracts. But he's probably a little better at defense, and I think the same is true about Travis Hunter. But both versatile players can do a lot for you.
Okay. Now, Jonathan, do you know who Travis Hunter is? He's a newer guy in the league. So do you agree with that comp?
I do. I was actually going to say that's probably been my favorite comparison out of all of them, just because he stands right, plays offense and defense, gets more attention when he's playing offense, but probably better guy at playing defense, if I'm being honest.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm learning.
and partially why I say that is because with the U.S., we have, in my opinion, a really good attack, especially compared to what it looked like 4 years ago or 6 years ago. But our defense, we need a lot there. We're kind of lacking. So I think I would rather see him, because he's one of our better players. I'd rather see him, a player who can do both. I'd rather see him on the end of the field where we need that help a bit more.
Okay.
But our next player, I think, is a player you're going to like a lot. He has a really cool story. I think you're going to like him.
Okay.
Tyler Adams. Why don't you start us off, John? Or not? But Tyler. Oh, is he back?
He's back. He's back.
Okay.
Tell us about Tyler.
Tyler's definitely one of those guys, right? He was kind of newer to the scene when he was coming up with Christian Pulisic.
And he's gone again.
Well said, John. But Tyler Adams, the thing I put down here for NFL fans learning about this for the first time, he's the quarterback of the team. His position, he's a defensive midfielder. So he's part of a really strong midfield we have, but he's able to contribute more on defense while passing, and he makes a lot of really long-range passes that I think are one of the special things he adds to the team. John, it looks like you're back.
Yeah, I think Jonathan.
Okay, he's messing with us at this point. But on the topic of Tyler Adams, he plays for AFC Bournemouth. They're in the Premier League, so that's by far the toughest league in the world. So he's playing against the best players in the world week in, week out. They also, the Premier League, they have more games than these other leagues in Europe. So he's being pushed physically a lot more than the rest of the players on his team and the rest of the players in the World Cup, right? Most of the players we're going to see this summer are not players who play at that high of a level. However, he has gotten injured a lot at that level. It's kind of an unfortunate reality you see with a lot of players. Pulisic, one of those players, he played at the Prem. He just wasn't physical enough. He wasn't lucky enough, perhaps, to have the right genetics to have a career at that level. And it's something we see in the NFL where players are just injury prone and you get hurt a little bit more easier than others. Tyler Adams is kind of like that. But when he's on the field, he's usually one of, if not the captain of our team, and he is the quarterback of the team. He's kind of like a linebacker, really. He's a defensive midfielder, but he's a linebacker who's really good at passing. So we'll see what the comp looks like for that. But before we get to that, Alvarado, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, I really love the player you're comparing him in the NFL. One of the things about Tyler Adams that people love is his outside of the field mannerisms, right? So when he's talking in press conferences or when he's kind of speaking to the press after or before a game, he's usually calm, cool, collected. On the field, it could be a different story. However, that's why people like him. And he was the captain at the last World Cup. And so at such a young age as well, he's one of the I'd have to think of his age, but I want to say he's somewhere in his mid-20s. He might have been 22, 21 when he was the captain at the World Cup. So he's still mid-20s, still a pretty young guy. But though he's one of the young people out there, he's people that commands respect, really presents well, and doesn't give too much into what the media is saying about him.
Yeah, and based on what you guys are saying, I really like this player comp. I think this is a really good one, Stan, because, this guy is definitely someone who can get fired up on the field, but his press conferences are always super laid back. He's always joking around. I really like this player as well. So I agree. I think you're right. I'm going to like this comp.
Well,
do you want to do the reveal?
Why don't you? You say the name, I'll go from there.
This is the second best quarterback in the NFL behind Mr. Joseph Lee Burrow, Joshua Allen. I love Josh Allen. Absolute dog, big arm. He'll run you over. He's just so fun to watch, even if you're not a Bills fan. And, captain, leader of the team. He's put the team on his shoulders multiple times in Buffalo, and that's why Buffalo fans love him. That's why NFL fans love him. So it sounds like that's who Tyler Adams is as well. He's kind of putting the whole team on his shoulders. And yeah, that leads to injury now and then, but he doesn't care. He gets right back up, and he's a guy who, like, he may yell at you on the field, he may tell you you're being stupid, but then he's gonna go crack a beer with the boys right after the game, right?
Yeah, no, he's a great guy. And the first thing I put on my notes here is tone setter for his team, right? He sets the tone. You mentioned fired up on the field, but he knows how to handle the press conferences the right way. Tone setter. He's a professional. He gets the ball out. Another guy who's a big passer, and he has his types of passes specifically. He's able to go from defense into attack in a second. He's able to get the ball just flipped across the field. And kind of like how I said, Weston McKennie's able to go across. Tyler Adams, he doesn't go across, he goes down the field. So it's a similar type of passing, similar type of skill, but Adams, he's that flitch, that switch to get us into attack. And another really cool thing about him is I think about Josh Allen. I think about a guy who is very, very underappreciated. I mean, he got drafted out of Wyoming. Before that, do you guys know the school he was at before?
I don't.
Reedley. It was a JUCO school. He played JUCO. And similar to that, Tyler Adams played at the USL Championship. And that's like the second level in the U.S. And the U.S., our first level, is not even a top 10 level in the world, right? So, like, you're talking about he came from, like, maybe a bottom – like, he's probably not even in a top 100 league, that first league he played at. So he came from a low level. He came onto the system. He went from that low level to the Americans' first year in a couple of years. From there, he went into Europe. So he's a guy who wasn't very appreciated as a younger player in his career, but he fought up. He worked hard. He had the right attitude. He's a professional, and he's able to rise through the ranks. And a final note I put about him and Josh Allen is they could both be part of a frat at OSU. And if you've seen frats at OSU, you know what I'm talking about.
I've been to a frat at OSU with you.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that's why you were saying that.
No, I forgot about that, but that's true. So you know what I'm talking about. Nothing more needs to be said. And all those players so far are players in attack and midfield. Now we're going to move on to some defenders, with the next player being in my top 5 favorite players on this team, though all 10 of these guys are top 5 in my heart. John, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, Serginho Dest, right? This guy's probably one of the more prolific, as you can see from the image here. He used to play for FC Barcelona. He went out on a few loan spells. I believe AC Milan was one of them. But he was probably one of the best defenders that the USA has had. Fun fact about him, he actually chose to represent the US, as he had the option to represent the Netherlands, which Netherlands, though they're a country that they haven't won the World Cup, they're one of the countries that are very, very good at the sport overall. And so him choosing to play for the US was a big win for them. He's definitely a defender that likes to attack more, but he's still a very good defender. He's probably one of the best dribblers on the team. And similarly to Weah that we had chatted earlier, right? He can run up the field, sprint back, and defend. So he's really a good player to have in this U.S. team. He's had a few injuries here and there, and so some individuals aren't sure if he should be the starter or if Louis Scally should be the starter. If you ask me, I still pick between Serginho Dest, as he's the player to keep an eye out on this defense that can help a lot with attack.
All right.
Yeah, you mentioned Scally there for a second. Joe Scally, he's a guy who hasn't really been showing up. He had kind of a funny story, so I'll just bring it up real quick. He was really good, doing well on the national team, and with our new coach, Mauricio Pochettino, an Argentinian coach, he came here and Scally took a golf cart and did donuts with it. And then ever since then, Scally has not been a regular part of the team, and he got a chance to play. He got called back up. He was given a second chance, maybe 2 months ago it was, and he unfortunately performed pretty poorly. So I don't think he will be in the World Cup. It is possible, though. You never know with injuries. Anything could happen. Player Tanner Tessman, who would play kind of the third center back position that Scally, in my opinion, would be best for. He just got injured. So if he stays injured, I think that would give Joe Scally a chance. But back to Serginho Dest, one of his nicknames, I don't know if this is a very commonly known one, Destinho. I like it. In soccer, we do that a lot, Josh. We like to just kind of mash names together. It's a thing that comes from a lot of like Portuguese and Brazilian players. It's a cultural thing. So, for example, there's like a Brazilian player who goes by Hulk. A lot of Brazilian players don't even go by one of their like first or last names. They'll just go by one of their middle names. So
it's like the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, he just goes by Hulk. He's a very big, strong guy.
Well, that's good.
But anyway, my Destinho, fun nickname there. He's a fullback, so he plays more on defense, but he's an attacking fullback the way we use him, or the way I think we'll use him in the World Cup. And that means you're going to see him up there in the field a lot. The guy he reminds me a lot about is Le'Veon Bell, right? And when I think about Le'Veon Bell, when I think of Serginho Dest, I think of street ball. It's smooth. It's sexy. There's a lot going on. And both those guys, I think, are hesitation kings, right? The great hesitator, Le'Veon Bell, he's patient. He will attack. He'll get to you, but he's patient. He doesn't force it. Serginho Dest is the same way. When you see him with the ball, he doesn't force the pass too quickly. He kind of waits. He hesitates. He finds the best option. He finds the best pass. Or what he loves to do is dribble up. And he's probably one of the smoothest, one of the best dribblers on this U.S. team. In my opinion, he is the best by a pretty big, decent margin. He played a couple of years ago for Barcelona. So that's probably the second or third best team in the world right now. They've been one of the best teams in the world for most of their history. At least the last, 40 years, 50 years, something like that. So he played for one of the best clubs. Didn't work out well. He's also a guy, he gets injured a lot. He has that injury bug. And unfortunately, that kind of derailed his career because he would go to big clubs like Barcelona, like AC Milan, and he would just get injured way too early, and it just never gave him a chance to catch up. Now he's playing at a club called PSV, which is the best club in Netherlands. They're not a top 5 club, but they're probably number 8 on the list, maybe number 7. They're right up there. They're not that far below the top 5. But he doesn't play the same level of competition. When he does play good teams, though, he performs very well. And as he's a dribbler, those skills translate very well. And one thing I put about him and Le'Veon Bell is his style makes him look like he's on a different planet. And that's something I've always felt about both those players, where you watch them play and it seems like he's playing a different game. It seems like, that's like a college player playing against us 3 in high school, right? Like even if he's not having a great game, the style he plays in makes him look so much smarter in a way. That hesitation, that smoothness with the ball. So that was one thing I thought about both Le'Veon Bell and Serginho Dest. And I added a second player comp here, Mac Hollins. And there's only one word I put under in the notes for Mac Hollins. It's because they're both kind of weird. We know about Mac Hollins being weird. You'll see what he wears to games. You'll see the way he acts. Serginho Dest has a lot of the same stuff. His Instagram is always filled with funny stories on the Instagram stories section, funny posts about really goofy stuff. He'll just go on a car ride and vlog it for no reason. But he's a really fun player, and you see that with a lot of his style, the way he shows up on the field. He's having fun with it. He's vibing. He's just like Mac Hollins. He's just like someone we all know, JP Siberin. We'll give him a shout out real quick. But it's very unique. It's a very unique personality for sure. But yeah, just like Mac Hollins, Serginho Dest is a weirdo in a fun way.
Mac and JP could be brothers, but I just yeah, I like Mac Hollins, so I don't mind that. I don't think that's an insult either, or it should be taken as a compliment. Right?
Yeah, no.
Weird is sometimes used as an insult. No, this is a compliment.
Yeah, no. Every time I see a Mac Hollins Instagram video where he's explaining some sort of historical battle from 20 years, from 100 years ago, it's fun. You love it, right? You want some uniqueness. You need that on the team. It makes things work better. Serginho Dest, he adds some style, some pizzazz on the field and off the field.
Alvarado, do you know who Mac Hollins is? Is that Pittsburgh internet going to get us again? I think that Pittsburgh internet's going to get us again, but I don't know that he would know who Matt Collins is. That's a little bit of a niche poll, but Matt Collins, he's not going to be your star, but he's going to be, he can contribute. He's a contributor. Is that like how Sergino is here?
Yeah, and Sergio Dest, he is I think players will notice him a lot more than some of the other players because of how exotic his play style is. And, again, he came back from an injury a couple of weeks ago. He is playing nowadays, but, he had a long injury. I think he was out for maybe half a year. And then the year before that, he came off another year and a half long injury. I think he had an ACL or something. So it's really concerning. You never know how those injuries affect a player, especially when he's going from playing in his club where he's being nursed back into health to then being thrown onto the biggest spotlight in the world, the biggest stage, the World Cup. There's going to be a difference in intensity there. So we'll see how the injuries hold up there. But I think you guys as fans, you're going to notice him because of how exotic his play style is.
Okay. Alvarado, before you cut out, I was going to ask, do you know who Matt Collins is?
Heard of him. Don't know him, though.
Okay. He's very, I'd say more of a niche player, kind of. I think in 10 years, he's going to be someone that, is kind of named when you're sitting around the bar stool, just going naming players, trying to get the most random player out there. I think Matt Collins will be one of those guys. But he's a fun guy. He's a good player, good deep threat. A little bit older now, but
yeah, and kind of just like Des, one thing I'm thinking about now is on their teams, everyone loves them. Like they get along well. They're kind of a glue guy, right? Like when things are getting tough, they can keep it together. When things are going great, they know how to push and keep the energy, tip top, right? So I think that's another thing with both him and Matt Collins. Teammates appreciate those two guys.
All right. So who else do we got on Team America? So
a couple more left. We're going over the other fullback next. John, you want to introduce this next player?
Yes, on the other Scott talking about Serginho Dest, we go to the opposite side. We're talking about Anthony Robinson. Oh.
So this is Anthony Robinson.
So this is Anthony Robinson in his jersey. Wait, are you back, Alvarado?
Oh, yeah. I was just
He never left. He just stopped talking.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Now he's left. Okay, Stan, you go.
Okay, so there's clearly a lot going on here with the internet. But Anthony Robinson,
very big attacking guy, plays on the defense. He's a very smart individual. Compared to Serginho Dest, though, Anthony Robinson, with his nickname Jedi, just because he's so fast, has actually been performing well in the Premier.
Yeah, so he's been performing well in the Premier League. A couple of years ago, he was arguably, a top 5 fullback in the Premier League, right? So a top 5 at his position group, at the best league in the world. He was on top of it. He's not at that level right now, but he's still up there as one of the better players. And, he has a big frame. He's a strong guy. He's imposing on the field. And he's best when defending, but he's able to do enough on attack to be able to contribute. And he's a player who's a bit versatile, not as much as those other guys you mentioned earlier, but he can do a couple of things for you, just not a couple of different positions. And the player comp I have for him is Amon-Ra St. Brown for a couple of reasons. Let's jump into it. One thing, just as a joke, is his brother is not nearly as talented. If you remember, Amon-Ra St. Brown's brother, not nearly as talented as him. I don't know if he's still in the league. He was on the Bears for a bit. But Anthony Robinson's brother, Miles Robinson, not nearly as talented, still having a good career, right? He's still making it pro, but not at that same level as Anthony Robinson. But let's talk about the real parts of the comp here. I think they had very similar careers, these two players. They both arrived at poor times, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, Anthony Robinson got to their teams not near their peak at all, right? When Amon-Ra got there, I think they had 3 wins that season. It was not a very good year to get to the Lions. That was his introduction here to the NFL. You look at Anthony Robinson, when he went to Fulham, they got relegated. they got kicked out of their league because they were not good enough to stay at that level. Right, they got moved down to a lower division. He came at a really tough time when he arrived at that team. But both those players were able to be very big contributors in those two club teams for them going back up to the top. Right, the Lions, they've made the playoffs. They've had some great seasons. I mean, 2 years ago was a great season. This year, not so much, but they've had some really good seasons, some great offenses there. And similar, you look at Fulham, Anthony Robinson, right now they've been at the Prem for, I think, 4 years now running since they got pushed back up. I don't know if Alvarado knows that stat better than I do, but they've been back up for a few years now. They've even had a top 10 season where they were a top 10 team in the Prem. Not sure where they are this year, but they're doing so well as a team, and both these players able to lead their teams to that level. So I think that's kind of a cool comp there. But also both were low-cost additions. Amon-Ra St. Brown, he was a 4th-round pick. We forget this because it almost seems impossible. How did no one see how good this guy was going to be? He was a 4th-round pick. All of our teams could have gotten him. Some of our teams could have gotten him like 6 times. I think the Jets were like that in that draft. But low-cost pick. You look at Anthony Robinson. He was when Fulham got him, he was $3.5 million. I think the team they got him for was the team Wigan Athletic. You've probably never heard of, and most people who are listening to this have never heard of it because they're not even towards the top of the English division, right? So he was bought for like $3.5 million, and he's been able to grow. Both these players, low cost guys, able to just be such a big part of their teams, rising to the tops. Now, before Alvarado leaves us again, let's jump into that next player.
All right.
Who is it?
We got probably the best guy on defense that the USA could have, Chris Richards. So similar to Anthony Robinson, he's a guy that's playing in the center, the back. So he's probably going to be our biggest leader playing in defense. Plays for Crystal Palace in the Premier League. So again, one of the more competitive leagues out there. And he's a guy that's very, very dangerous in the air. So when we're having corner kicks, he's definitely going to want to be the guy that we're aiming for to score those headers. He's going to be our guy strongest in the defense. Again, more on the younger end, but this is probably going to be one of the more important people on the team.
Yeah, Chris Richards, he is hype. I mean, you talked about the aerial game he has as a defender. He has that, but you also see that on offense. He scores some goals as a player who is playing as far away from the opposing team's goal as you possibly could be and not be a goalkeeper, right? Like he's all the way back there, but they call him up when we have corners because he's able to be a big part of that. So he's able to do a lot. For his team, Crystal Palace, they're a team that when he got there, they were kind of a mid-team. Now they're doing well. They've had a couple of good seasons. They're staying at the Prem. They haven't gotten relegated. He's making a career for himself at a very high level. Very, very nice guy player. I think everyone just likes him. He doesn't have as big of a personality, but you definitely see that there, right? He definitely cares about it. And we talked about a couple of guys so far who I said they're kind of like the heartbeat of the team. Richards is another one of those guys. He is kind of the heartbeat of this team. You see him get passionate. You see him get fired up. He cares about it so much. He wants to be there. And it's something as a fan, I just love seeing that. And he's, as Alvarado mentioned, he's a central defender. And he's the best we have by a mile, right? We don't have any other central defenders who are near that level. The one guy we had, Tanner Tessman, I mentioned a little bit earlier, he's injured now, so he's not going to be there most likely. And the player comp I have here is a player that I thought you might like. I put the second half of the Bengals, Andrew Whitworth. So that would be like 2010 to 2016 Andrew Whitworth. And why do I say that? They're both very good players who are protecting something. Chris Richards protecting the goal. Andrew Whitworth protecting his quarterback. They're both guys who are just kind of like solid contributors on their teams. They're respected well by their teammates. They do their job. They show up. And the most important part of this to me is they need help, right? Andrew Whitworth, the second half of his time with the Bengals, Josh can talk about this a little more in a second. not the best O-line he had around him. Yeah, he needed some help there. Same thing with Chris Richards.
Yeah, Andrew Whitworth, big wit. He kind of, that was a weird era for the Bengals because when they were on, they were on. When they were off, they were off. Andy, a lot of that was because of Andy Dalton. A lot of that was because of that O-line. A lot of that was because of not wanting to spend money. And Andrew Whitworth was kind of one of those players that called that out. And he ended up going to the Rams, as we all know, and winning a Super Bowl with them against the Bengals. But yeah, needs help. He can't do it all. We just talked about a guy like Tyler Adams or Josh Allen who, puts the whole team on their back. And that's fun. That's great. We love that until we don't, right? And that's kind of where it came down to with Andrew Whitworth putting the whole entire O-line on their back. You get tired of that after a while. So if I'm understanding that right, it seems like Chris Richards is doing that, but he's almost – is he an older kind of version of Tyler Adams in some way here?
No, so they play different positions. So Tyler Adams is involved more in attack. Chris Richards, his actual position is purely as a defender. However, he's able to contribute on offense once in a while. You don't see it too often, but he's able to do it. Tyler Adams, his job, he's kind of required to kind of initiate the attack a lot of the time.
Okay. I guess I think I just meant as a guy who puts the team on their back. He's an older version of that.
Oh, no, Chris Richards is I think they're about the same age, but yeah,
okay.
I might have misheard you there. Sorry about that.
No, I explained that poorly. But
yeah, and we have one more player to go. Alvarado, any thoughts on Tim Ream?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is probably, aside from Tyler Adams, Tim Ream tends to be the captain of the USA. So again, similar to Christian Pulisic, he's been here in the U.S. for a while, right? Tim Ream was part of that team that didn't qualify in 2018 World Cup. However, unlike Christian, Tim Ream was more on the older side. He's probably going to be the oldest player. In fact, who knows if he even makes the team? I think he will because, sure, he's old, but at the same time, aside from Chris Richards or a few of our injured center backs, maybe there's a guy or two in there. There's really not a lot of options, so we might have no choice but to take him. His age is catching up to him a little bit, though, so he's kind of slow, but still a reliable guy in the back. A good leader in the dressing room. If he doesn't play, at the very least, I still think you take him just to be a leader in the locker room, at the very least.
Yeah, and one thing I'm thinking about too, I didn't put this for the player comp, but Cam Hayward of the Steelers is kind of like this too. Tim Ream, late bloomer. It took him forever in his career to reach the U.S. national team. It took him forever in his career to play at a high level. He was playing at kind of mid-tier levels most of his career. And then he was able to end off the last, I think, 2 or 3 seasons of his career in Europe. He was at the Premier League. He was at the top level, and he was a very, very good central defender there at the Prem. Last World Cup, he was stellar. Now, again, he's a late bloomer, so he wasn't with our country for much before that last World Cup. He came in towards the end of that cycle leading up to the World Cup, even though he was already up there in age. And then he was able to just come onto the field and be an immediate contributor. He was one of the best players on the field for us last World Cup. You're going to see him this World Cup. Unfortunately, age has caught up to him. He had to leave the Prem about a year and a half ago now, or less than that, maybe a year ago now, just because at his current age, he wasn't even able to play and stay on the field enough. It was too physical for him. Now he's playing in the U.S. It's technically unclear if he even makes the World Cup, but I think he makes for one simple reason. Most of the guys he's competing with for the spot he's going to take, they're guys who they get beat because they make bad decisions. So getting beat as an attacker will beat them, get past them, right? Because they're making bad decisions. Tim Ream gets beat because he's old. And it's just reality. Father Time caught up to him. But he's still a smart player. And I think because of that, he should be able to at least hold his own on the field. I just hope physically his body can hold up throughout the tournament. And the player comp is Aaron Rodgers because they're both old.
Okay, wait. I wanna go into it because I felt like you were doing a.
No,
I felt like you were setting that up so well, and then you just abandoned it.
So it was a punchline, but there's a little more to it. I'm going to add a little more. So part of it's because they're old, but they're there because their team still needs them, right? The Steelers last season, at least, they needed Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers wasn't there, they're not winning as many games, right? Same thing with Tim Ream. We still need him because we just don't have a great group at the central defender position. We still need him on our team. We need him to do well. And in many ways, if you look at the Steelers season, their worst games were when Aaron Rodgers struggled the most. It was when Aaron Rodgers didn't have enough time in the pocket. And the same thing in this World Cup. I think our worst games will be when Tim Ream gets beat the most, when he's struggling the most physically to hold up.
Yeah, and like one other thing I want to point out is like Aaron Rodgers, we're expecting him to rejoin the Steelers this weekend. So when he does rejoin that locker room, he's going to win the QB1 position over Drew Aller, over Will Howard, over Mason Rudolph because, he's older, but those younger guys are going to make mistakes. I mean, we haven't seen Drew Aller. We haven't really seen Will Howard either, but we can expect that they're going to make some decisions, as all young players do. But we know who Aaron Rodgers is, and I think that goes into this comparison as well based on what you've shared.
Yeah, and I've compared the center back position or the central defender's position kind of to O-line throughout this video. But one thing about that position is you can play with different amounts of it. So you could have two central defenders. You could technically have one. Teams have done that before. Not a great idea for our team, but teams have done that before. I think our team is going to use three central defenders, and I still think Tim Ream is definitely he's not number one, but he's not below number 3 on our central defender list, right? Just like Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, he may not be the best option, but he is your option, and he is your best option.
Okay, I'm with it. Alvarado, Aaron Rodgers, so you agree with this?
I do, actually. I mean, like Stan said, he's definitely not our number one person in the back. That definitely goes to Chris Richards. However, again, I commend the guy. He's been holding on to his dear life for his career for so long. I think you still take him, but I do agree with Stan. If he has a bad game, you'll notice that he's had a bad game overall. So it's kind of hard because when he does well, nobody really attacks him. But when he doesn't do well, there are magnifying glasses on the guy. So, poor guy. I don't know if he'd necessarily take the spot away from others if the U.S. had a healthy, full best center backs overall. But because he's just one of the guys that is remaining there, all right, we know what we'll get out of him. Let's take him with us just because we know what he's going to produce in the field. I don't really think we have a choice to not take him, and if I'm being honest. And again, good leader. He was the USA captain for a reason. If he doesn't play at the very least, he's still that guy in the locker room that can get people hyped up and keep their heads held high in case we're not doing so well.
Okay.
Now we talked about attackers, some midfielders, some defenders. Now let's put up the picture of our goalkeeper. Oh, wait, there is none because we actually don't know who our goalkeeper will be. The U.S., something you guys should know if you're going to watch this World Cup, we do not have a great goalkeeper room right now. And historically, it's actually been one of our better rooms. We've had better goalkeepers as a country historically than most of the countries in North America. We've had better goalkeepers than like plenty of countries that have made it far. And that's our goalkeeper, T'Vondre Sweat there.
Can we just put a big boy up front?
Yeah, but I'll tell you a little bit about the goalkeepers. We have Matt Turner, who he played okay at the last World Cup. He's one of those guys. He reminds me of like what we call a bridge QB, where he's not going to be the biggest reason you lose a game or the biggest reason you win a game. He's going to get beat, but it's not going to be like, he has to like do better. You're going to say he's doing what you expect him to do, right? He is who he is. The other guy, Matt Freese, he is one of the best keepers we've had at defending penalties. At everything else, he's very average. I think he's fine. Same level as Matt Turner. Either of those Matts could be the starter. But let's move on to what I think the most exciting segment is going to be. We're going to play a little game here, and I didn't tell you about this before because I didn't really plan this before. But Josh, I'm gonna buy you a very nice bottle of whiskey if you can win this. We'll post on Instagram. We'll show this to you. I'll buy you whatever bottle of whiskey you want. If you can get at least 5, you have to guess at least 5 of my player comps. Or
how many are there?
There's like 13 or something. Let me see.
Okay. This isn't a bit, guys. I really know nothing about soccer. This isn't like me doing a character. This is real.
Yeah, there are 13 teams, but here's the thing: you don't need to know about soccer because myself and Alvarado will tell you about the soccer comparison. I'll start off with why I put them on the list. John, you can add whatever you want to add to these discussions, and then you're going to use our clues. You can ask us a question or two if you want to, but you're going to use our clues to try to guess what the NFL version of that team or player would be. So that's the game. I think you got this. You got 13. Okay. I just checked. There are 13 prompts. You need 5 of them to get your whiskey. Okay. I was going to say football cards, but I don't know football cards, so I thought this would be better. You do like whiskey, right?
I do like whiskey, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll work this out. Anyway, number 1, we're talking about Argentina. Okay, Argentina, they won the last World Cup, Josh, right? They were right up there. Lionel Messi, he's Messi. Old now. He's old, but you know him, and that tells you exactly who he is. He is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, in my opinion. Alvarado, I don't think we've had this discussion. Is he the GOAT for you?
I think he definitely is the GOAT. I mean, right, there's a reason people know him right off the way. You don't even have to hear the word soccer, and he's going to be one of the guys that you'll immediately think about.
Okay. I'm with you. I think I know. Is that it?
Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. I think you'll get this right. It sounds like, but he's 38 years old now. He might be 39 once the World Cup hits. I'm not entirely sure, but he's pretty old. He was 34 at the last World Cup, or 35, right? So he was already pretty old when he won that World Cup. That was his first World Cup. That was kind of like, and it's so hard to win them because they happen once every 4 years. So a lot of players, you don't even have a World Cup happen in your prime. But Messi, that was kind of like the thing that solidified him as the GOAT in many people's minds once he was able to lead that team there. Before that, though, I think most people, or half of the world, would have agreed he was the GOAT anyway because of what he's done. That just kind of, put him on top. And now he's already on top of the world, but he's older. And he moved down to a different team. He moved from Europe. Now he's playing in the U.S. He's playing in Miami, actually. And they're trying to see if they could get another World Cup. And I have one team specifically that I'm thinking of, but there's a player too you can name if you want to. Who do you have? Oh, also, I just put for the tagline, I put trying to extend the GOAT's legacy.
Okay. So when you talk about like winning late in your career, winning your first championship after, that type of thing, I kind of go Matthew Stafford. That's not where I'm going to go, though, because you've been saying the word GOAT a lot. Now, I'm an Indiana boy, Peyton Manning, all that. Not who I'm going with either. I think, and I got to guess team, right? You want me to go team? Is my guess?
Yeah,
here?
I'd say there's a specific year I'm thinking of. There's a specific team in a specific year with a specific player who I think you are going to guess right.
Okay. I'm going to go with Tampa Brady, Tom Brady, the year he went to the Buccaneers and they won the Super Bowl. Not that weird year that he retired and then unretired and sucked. No, we're talking Super Bowl, Tampa Brady.
That's it. And I just put Tom Brady Bucks as you got 1 point already. Great job. Great start. That's what you need. And you got 12 more to go. Team number 2 is the US of A. Okay. Things that this team has in common. I love them, right? I'm a soccer fan. I just want to be clear. I'm more of a U.S. fan than I am a soccer fan. I love this team so much. Like if the U.S. wasn't in the World Cup, I would not care about this nearly as much. I may not watch too many of the games, but I love this team so much. And the U.S. in this moment right now, I feel like the last World Cup, I thought we were going to do more. I thought we were going to have a good run. I really did. And we just ended up doing the same thing we've done before. We didn't make the World Cup before that. And then the World Cup before that, this would have been 2014 I want to say that was Brazil. I remember that World Cup. That was Tim Howard, my favorite player of all time. I love Tim Howard. He also has Tourette's just like me. But Tim Howard was
Okay.
had crazy games. The team we couldn't get up there. We just couldn't do it. The one time the US's best World Cup was, I think, World Cup number 2 or 3, really early in the World Cup chronology. I forget when it was, where we got 4th place. Never have been back up there again. Now, in that World Cup where we got 4th, I think there were only 8 teams, so not the most impressive. I'm going to take it, though, okay? In that smaller World Cup format, the U.S., we were up there, haven't been up there yet, and recently I've thought the last couple World Cups that we're going to do it, I kept on thinking every 4 years, oh, my gosh, we're doing this. We have it. I might be too on the nose, Josh. So, what's your guess?
Okay, well, if this was anyone else saying it's going to be our year, I would go Dallas Cowboys. However, I know, and it's a team, right? This is a team?
Yeah.
I know my friend Stan.
But sorry, just one specific thing to say. I've been thinking they were going to do it, but they've never done it. They haven't done it forever.
Okay.
A very long time.
That solidifies my answer, because I know my friend Stan, the Jet fan, and he is an optimist nearly every year that something is going to happen and that they've figured it out. And the New York Jets have yet to really put anything together. So that's who I'm going with, New York Jets.
2 for 2. 2 for 2. Great start. You're doing it. I might be a little bit too on the nose with the clues here, but we'll go to number 3. This country's Croatia. Now, John, I say Croatia. What are you thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, to kind of put it into perspective, Josh, they are teams that they haven't necessarily won a Euros. They haven't won the World Cup, but they've made it to a final. The most recent one, they lost at a semifinal. They have pretty good players, actually, and a Ballon d'Or winner in Luka Modric. At the time, they had Ivan Rakitic. Right, so they have good players overall. But one thing about them is they just, there's something that always holds them back, and they just can't get through. They can't take that last step, which is the punchline here. They can't take that last step to kind of go all the way, but they're still pretty respected overall as a country, I would say, but kind of underrated at the same time.
Underrated?
You mentioned Luka there. I just want to say that Luka, he's a legend of the game. Rakitic, legends of the game here. Luka more than Rakitic. But, some of these guys they've had, they've been some of the best at their positions for pretty good periods of time. And they get through their groups basically all the time. They'll make the tournament. They'll make the knockoffs. They just can't get past that. They get stuck there at the knockoffs.
So they struggle in the playoffs, one would say.
Yep, you could say that.
Okay. There are 2 teams I'm thinking of here. But you said underrated. So the 2 teams I have in my mind are the Ravens and the Steelers, because both of them can kind of make the playoffs, but both of them kind of fall off in the playoffs.
Do you think maybe you're seeing those 2 teams because they're both in your division?
No, I think I'm saying those. I think that's true. I mean, Lamar has, you could throw the Chargers in there too, actually, with Justin Herbert. He struggled, playoff wise, but I don't think that the Chargers are underrated. I don't think the Ravens are underrated. Am I on the right?
Well, I would actually disagree with John on the underrated. I think they're kind of rated where, like, I think we know who both these teams are.
What do you mean, John? You're the one who said it.
Well, I say underrated in the sense that nobody I think when I'm seeing it in the back then, the first time they made the World Cup final, nobody really expected them to make the World Cup final. But as far as where we're at in the present, they've kind of gone from underrated to a rated team, now that I think about it.
Yeah, I was referring more to like where these two teams are in this period of time, if that helps.
Would this team go undefeated then randomly lose to Taylor Heineke and Ryan Finley?
I'm not going to answer that.
I can't answer that.
That sounds like a yes. And they've got a long legacy, you said?
Yes.
Well,
okay. Very historic.
Sorry. Oh.
Not that I'm trying to give Josh a hint here at all. No, I can't answer that because I don't know who that is. So that really shouldn't even help you.
Rude.
Well, I would say that they also, both those teams are known for having some of the most, I don't want to necessarily say passionate, but noticeable fan bases. Like if you watch a game with these teams, you will notice their fans. They make themselves present.
Waving towels in the air.
Not going to answer that. I think you got to guess.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep. 3 for 3. Great start. I should not have gone at 5 because you're definitely getting some whiskey, Josh. The next one we have here, Australia, but I have them related to a player. But Australia, they're a team, and the tagline I put here is happy to be here. They're just happy. I think they're happy. Have you met Australians? They're just a happy people. I have some family who's in Australia. I met Australians back at school. There was a couple Australians there. They're just a happy people. They're chill. Okay. They're vibing. Okay. They're enjoying themselves, and they're happy about whatever. They will take any situation and make it a positive, right? And they'll even say it sucks maybe, but they'll make it a positive. They'll be positive, and that's something that relates to this player. Do you have any? But if you want to learn more about Australia as a team, they're a team that they moved to Asia, so that they actually don't get the spot from Oceania, but they compete in Asia because they want better competition. They want to be among the best. They got that dog in them, and it means that now in Asia, it's harder for them to make the World Cup because when they were in Oceania, they were by far, like by a mile and a half, the best team there. No one would compete with them, not even New Zealand. But now in Asia, they're like they got that dog in them, and I think that should help you a little bit with the clue as well.
So was he? We're talking about Australia, right?
Australia compared to a player.
Okay, and Australia, they weren't a big deal, but they've kind of come on the scene a little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that in the grand scheme of things, similar to this player, they probably are getting more hype from some people than they should be. Like people from Australia think they're way better than they're going to be. But I would say that I would say I don't know what book that is. I don't know what my camera is. Do you want to just guess? Just guess.
Is it Fernando Mendoza?
You got it. 4 for 4.
Oh, I think he's winning that whiskey.
I know too much ball. I'm a ball knower. Doesn't matter if it's round or whatever the shape of a football is.
I told you were going to do well. I did. You were underestimating yourself. So I told you to do well. You're doing well. Number 5, the country is Norway. Now, Norway as a country,
nice.
They kind of get hated on in the soccer world. People see them as nothing. Now, you go back to some time ago, Norway was probably a top 3 country in the world in their peak. Like they were really, really good. It didn't last long. And part is because like they have a small population, so you don't get as many top-notch soccer players. Right now, they have arguably one of the best players in the world. I'm not relating that to this team. I'm just giving you the info. Erling Haaland, not relating that to this team.
That's not important.
Yeah, but the thing that relates to this team is that in many ways they just have so much to prove. And I think they have a decent chance of proving it. They're making the right decisions. They've been winning recently, not so much as with this NFL team, but they're moving in the right direction. Things are looking positive. And coming into this season, they just have so much to prove. So many people in that organization, they want to go and say, hey, this is who we are. This is how we're going to play. Erling Haaland, the player of Norway, the leader, like he wants to lead that team. He wants that for his legacy, quite frankly. He wants to be able to lead this team to something great. Any thoughts on that, John?
No, not necessarily at all. I mean, the only thing I can think of Norway that I could say for me is they have one of the best players in the world right now. Maybe not the best, but definitely one of the best in Erling Haaland, as well as the fact that they're a team that just really weren't respected, but okay, now they kind of are. I don't have too much to add on Norway necessarily.
But that's not important. Their player isn't important.
Yeah, don't worry too much about the player. The respect thing, I think that's a pretty good clue. Like, a lot of people aren't going to respect them. I think their fans, they expect to do something this year.
Was this a team that I really liked their defense last year?
Maybe. I'm actually not sure now.
Okay.
I think you just got to guess, Josh. I can't really.
No, I know you really like some of their defenders, if that helps.
And there's one specifically that I really, really like.
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure because I'm not sure who you're. I'd say I think so. I think you're on the right track.
Okay. I think it's Jesse Bates and the Atlanta Falcons.
No, do you really like Jeffrey Simmons? Or am I bugging him?
No, I love Jesse Bates because he's from Fort Wayne, former Bengal. You know, Kevin Stefanski's got a lot to prove. There's some other players on that team that got to prove they're the top dog. Is it the Titans?
Well, yeah, it is the Titans. That one actually works too, though. I think that you're not going to get the point because the point is you get the point for guessing the one I wrote down, but that's not a bad comp. I could see a lot of that too. But I put the Titans mainly because of the people in that organization. So Dayball, Salah. Like they have something to prove. They kind of have an axe to grind. And I think Haaland entering this World Cup, he and his team, they've been kind of disrespected by the soccer community a little bit the last couple of years. Haaland himself, he had like a really good stretch a little bit ago, kind of like the Vrabel stretch with the Titans. But you look at that, the last couple of years, he's hasn't been the same. His team was the best team in the world, and everyone knew that. Not Norway, this club team, Manchester City, the best team in the world by 1.5 miles for like, what, 2 years, 2.5 years, John? So like a stretch like that. Now, now they're still a great team. They're just not at that level. So that's what I'm thinking of with the Titans, with Dayball, with Salah. Just so much to prove, though, outside of their fan bases. I don't think fans of most countries expect Norway to do a lot. I think Norwegian fans expect them to do a lot. I don't think fans of non-Titans teams expect them to do a lot. My roommate is a Titans fan, and I'll tell you, he expects them to do something. There are expectations coming from that fan base.
If you thought this was rigged at home, it's not, and that's proof right there.
Now, number 6, we got New Zealand. We've talked about them a little bit before, and I think that's kind of all the clues you need with talking about New Zealand, because I told you everything about them, right? They're coming from Oceania. They are there because the new format gives them a free spot, basically, because no one else there, like the other countries are not going to be good enough, right? They're not there because they're at a World Cup level team. They're just there because their division, in a way, is so easy.
Because literally everyone else sucks.
That's all you need. You should be able to get it right now.
I can't even add more to that. That's exactly what I would have said.
It's an NFC South. If this isn't the Atlanta Falcons, I'm coming through the screen.
Lock in final answer?
Yes.
You got it. Whiskey time. It's the Falcons. I put specifically the Falcons from last playoffs. You know, you look this last season. They were there because they had enough, right? They made it out of a very mid group. The next country I have here is Canada. Now, I want to explain this. I think you'll get it.
Sir.
They have a couple of really, really good players. They have arguably a top. Well, they arguably have the best striker or like a top 3 striker. So that's like the most attacking, foremost player in North America. They have, would you say, John, a top 5 fullback in the world right now?
I would say definitely.
Yeah, he's definitely in that conversation of top 5. But top 5 fullback in the world. They have some other great players throughout the field. One of my favorite players, you know me, I don't like Canada. I beef with them. I don't enjoy that country at all. But Eustáquio, you know Eustáquio from Porto? One of my favorite players. I actually don't know if he's still at Porto. He might have moved now. But I love him. He brings so much to that Canadian team that I love. They got some dogs in them for sure. But again, think about that. They have a couple of really, really good players towards the top of their game. But outside of that, there is a drop-off. You know, I talked about the U.S. not having a good goalkeeper. Mexico, too. John's team does not have a good goalkeeper. Canada, not a good goalkeeper. North America is devoid of goalkeepers right now. Canada, just a lot of question marks. Their defense kind of mid. Things are not looking great. What team are you thinking of?
Is this guy leading it?
I'm not going to answer that question because that would give away too much one way or the other. There are a few countries teams that I think this could be, but there's one specifically that I think fits it best.
So they've got a lot of really good players at the top of their positions, but they also have, you know, maybe some unproven spots.
I wouldn't say a lot. I'd say they have a few guys who are like expected to be top 5 in their positions, but like a handful, not a lot. Like
okay.
Like maybe 3 or 4 ish. And I think like one thing with that is they have like a pretty good striker, very like good. They have a really, really good defender. Like when he's doing well, he's probably top 3 maybe in this position. So that should give you a little bit there.
Is he an angry defender? Almost mad?
I don't know how to answer. I feel like most defenders are like that. I don't really know how to answer that.
Maybe mad. I'm thinking the Las Vegas Raiders with Mad Max.
You got it. There you go. And the tagline I had there was some really good players, but a lot of roster questions. Does that put you at 6, or how many do we have?
I've only missed one, right? Because the Falcons weren't good enough the first time.
You were at 5.
Whiskey time!
Oh, no, you got 5 on New Zealand. Okay, I'm counting right. You definitely got the whiskey. We'll figure out the numbers later. But your next team is Mexico. John's team. The first tag, I put 2 taglines here. The first one I put is they have lots of Mexican fans. Lots of them. So that's your first tagline. Honestly, you should get it off of that. And I made this even easier. There are 2 options. You got 2 NFL teams that you could get the points for. Lots of Mexican fans. Very, very big clue there. But talking more seriously about them as a team, Mexico, they were once great. Okay, and I'm talking about great. They never won a World Cup. They were a team that they were, you know, constantly making it towards the end of the tournaments. They were winning in the knockouts. They were beating top teams. They just were never able to bring it all together to win the full World Cup. But there were quite a few years where they could have. They were right there towards the top of the game. They still have talent to this day. They do right now have talent, but they can't get all together. They can't. And it's like, with the talent they have, maybe they can have a good run. They're definitely not going to win, in my opinion, not going to win a World Cup this year. I don't know.
Sorry, Alvarado.
John can add more in a second, but that's what I'm thinking of. They're not going to win it this year, but they could do well. I think they could have a good year. John, what are your thoughts?
Considering he has 2 teams to pick from, I'm going to stay quiet.
Do they? So hang on. First of all, I don't think you would go Raiders back to back. So I'm taking out the Raiders, but they have a lot of Mexican fans. The other 2 teams, does this NFL team share the fact that they've never won before?
I'm not going to answer that because that's just too like that one way or the other would give away too much. But I mean, actually, no. I can tell you, no, they don't.
No, they don't share that.
But I'm not going to say anything more than that because it's
Okay.
already too easy. I don't want to.
Okay.
I also don't think that's really going to help you, if I'm being honest.
Okay. So these teams have won before, though, and they've got. Is it?
Well, I'm not going to say they have won before, but I'm going to say they don't share the fact that they haven't both not won before, which is your question, right? Am I bugging?
Yeah, but I don't know.
Just
What?
Okay, it's okay. It's okay. But they at one point in time they were great, and I use that word specifically. They weren't just good. They weren't very good. They were great.
Great. Okay.
And Mexico too. I mean, you could tell us about some of the players, but Mexico has had some of the best players in the game, right? Like they've had top-notch talent.
Just like this team.
Both these teams.
Oh, there's 2 teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. I don't know what the other team is, but I'm going to go with the 49ers here.
That is one of the teams. Do you want to guess the other one? I think you should get it, especially with the player clue. I think that helps you a bit more.
Well, okay, when I think old legacies, we've already done the Steelers, so it's not them. Not the Packers because they're still.
Also, there are repeats on the list, I think.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Well, that changes things.
Are there? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Just don't. You already won the whiskey, so we're just not going to answer that. Actually.
Okay.
It could be, could not.
Okay. I'll go down. Let's just go Dallas.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
2 for 2. So I guess the question you got wrong, we'll just give you that back now. So since you got both, you get 2 points there. And because I was kind of dissing Mexico, I don't want to leave Alvarado out of this. Do you want to defend or clarify anything I said? I didn't mean to diss them for the record. I do think they'll be a good team. I just don't think they're anywhere near the top.
To put into perspective, Josh, they haven't won like big tournaments like the World Cup or the Copa America, where it's North America and South America, but they have won tournaments in North America. So the rivalry with the USA, they've won a few times there. They've beaten Canada. They've won a few tournaments in the region. When we expand to the rest of the world, though, no, we're not good.
Okay.
That being said, about that rivalry with the U.S., Josh, you'll be very pleased to know that we have been walloping Mexico in recent memory. Now,
Take that.
The CONCACAF Nations League, there's only been 3 of them, but that's like kind of the top tournament in North America. 4. We won 3 of them. Those are the 3 that matter. And then the 4th one was won by
Mexico.
Mexico. So we have 3 of the 4, Josh. Okay, we're dominant. We're doing well. I think of the last 6 games between us and the U.S., we won 4 times. They won once, and then we had a draw as well. And then, so we're doing well. We're on top right now. Neither of our teams are very good right now, but we're doing well for ourselves. We are North America's team.
Okay.
And also I just want to say, John, your goalkeeper situation has not been great for Mexico, right? Because I know I said that earlier. Was I wrong with that? Would you disagree? Or?
It's hit or miss, to be honest. I mean, you could always bring back Ochoa, but if we're talking old, he's older than Tim Ream, but he always shows up at the World Cup. So it's been confirmed he is going. He's not going to be the starter. As far as other goalkeepers, they had Malagone, right? He was the goalkeeper in the most recent Nations League and Gold Cup win as well. However, he recently injured his Achilles, I want to say. I don't know if it was an Achilles or an ACL, but I'm pretty sure it was an Achilles. So, as far as the two best options, one's just old, one just got out. So we have a decent, okay goalkeeper in Tyler Rangel. However, he's okay in the Mexican league, but that's the Mexican league. So it'll be a real test whether he does okay at this recent World Cup or not.
Yeah, Malagone, I think if is he fully out for the? I didn't know about the Achilles. He's fully out of the tournament, or is there a chance? Like, when did it happen? Was it recent?
Yeah, it was not too long ago. I want to say it was 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Ooh.
So people have been saying no, he's definitely out. So maybe he makes it back, but I think he's out for sure.
Yeah, he could get Aaron Rodgers' doctor to figure that out. But
you always have Ochoa, so you never know.
Yeah, Ochoa, I don't know if I ever told you this, he's one of my favorite goalkeepers all time. I just love how he's undersized, but I think he's the definition of he has that dog in him. Like, he's a fighter, he's an athlete, he pushes himself, and he's kind of a quiet guy too, right? Like, you don't see him being a jerk necessarily, but he stands up for himself and his teammates. And I think that's something I've always respected by his game. But let's move on. You're doing well, Josh. You got a lot of points. This one is a player comp. The player we have is Ronaldo, and it's Ronaldo right now based on his team situation, which I'm now realizing I might be saying too much already. But the tagline I put here is, he wants more minutes/targets than you probably should give him. And to tell you more about this, I'll focus more on the soccer side of it. Portugal, in terms of their roster, in my opinion, they're probably number 3 or 4 in the world. They're right around that level. They're very high. They could win the World Cup. But Ronaldo at last World Cup was a big reason why they didn't catch a lot of success. He was a distraction for them. He wanted more time on the field, and he kind of demanded it, even though, he's old. He's just not who he used to be. I think I've said more than enough. What's your guess?
So older guy. You said targets, so that makes me think receiver. AJ Brown?
Yep. There you go. Moving on to Ecuador. Now, Ecuador has an elite defense. Probably, I don't know if you would say, I don't know if I'd say best in the world, but they're up there. They're top 5 best defense in the world. John, would you agree with that?
I think top 5. Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, it's the thing that gives me pause is, in terms of performance, I think they definitely have top 5. But in terms of their roster, I don't know if they do. So it's kind of hard to weigh that out. But yeah, in terms of how they're playing, that's a top 5 defense in the world, no question. However, they need a better situation up top. They just can't score goals. And their strikers, like they have some young guys. They have one, I can't think of his name right now. There's one really young attacker who's like a wonder kid who's like really, really good, but he's not old enough right now. But for the most part, it's like that offense just needs something. They're not there yet. And the tagline I put here is elite defense, offense needs a better, and then I put a position there. I'm not going to say it because that would be too easy. But
I think I got it. It's the Anti-Bengals, the Houston Texans.
Yep, you got it. Basically a perfect score so far. The next country, Italy. This one was given to me by Alex Heller, so shout out Alex. And he said the tagline he came up with was lots of talent come up short. So Italy, John mentioned this earlier, they haven't made now 3 World Cups in a row. And that's a country that won 4 of them. Yeah, 4 World Cups, right? Something that, they're right there at the top of all time in terms of performance, but now they've missed 3 in a row. They're just not looking great. There's a lot of issues there. I think they recently had a coaching change. Now I'm saying too much on this clue.
Okay. That narrows it down to like 8 teams.
Okay, but yeah, it's lots of talent. They come up short.
Are they tradition? Is Italy traditionally considered like a favorite?
I'd say entering like World Cup qualifiers, they probably like on betting markets, they probably would be a favorite to make it. They just don't do it. Like they going into World Cup. So for the World Cup, there's like multiple, like there's basically 2 years of games or 2.5, depending on how big your continent is, leading up to the World Cup, where you're going through qualification tournaments. So you have to win a lot of games just to make it to the Cup itself. Italy, going into those tournaments, they're almost always at the top of their groups. They should be doing well, but they just can't. They just can't do it. They don't do it.
So this could be either the Bills or the Ravens, but the Bills don't really have talent. They don't have a really good roster. They've got Josh Allen and like a few guys, but they don't, nothing beyond the wows. There's a lot of questions at receiver. Well, I'm not confident on this one. I'm not confident here because I don't know. Oh, wait, but they both had coaching changes. Shoot. But not really. The Bills didn't really have a coaching change. They had a fire and a promotion. So I'm trying to read Alvarado's eyes. He looks nervous. The Ravens.
Yes, you got it. You got it. I have to leave a little suspense. We got to do something here, but yeah, it is the Ravens. And part of what I kind of put into that as well is I do think the Bills have found a lot more success, which is kind of like making the Cup, while the Ravens, they have really good rosters on paper. Most years, I expect them to make it through, to do something big. They just can't do it.
Okay.
Moving on, we got Morocco.
Okay.
Yes.
And I put Morocco from 2018 to today, so this recent era of Morocco, compared to I misread it. No, it's Morocco right now. Okay, sorry. Morocco right now. And I put as their thing, they overperformed one tournament in recent memory. Current teams have a solid future. This is kind of a 2-part answer because you got to let me know which year of the team just crazily overperformed. Morocco, last World Cup tournament, they made it all the way to the semis, was it? John?
Yes, they did. They did.
Yeah, that was the most a team from Africa has ever accomplished, right?
I want to say it is. They also, to put context here, we're keeping it strictly to World Cup. They've been doing really well. They made the final of the African AFCON, the African Cup of Nations. And so they have a promising future coming up ahead, and people are expecting them to do okay at the World Cup. But World Cup 2018, no, they just came out of nowhere. Nobody expected anything. So they definitely overperformed.
And they do have some players who are like, but both the NFL team and this country, who are like right up there at their positions. And I'd say they have a lot of guys, both the team and the country, who like they're not like for the NFL team, it's like players you maybe their name recognition isn't as much. For this soccer team, it's like the clubs they're coming from, they're not the biggest clubs in the world. They're not necessarily playing at the highest levels in the world. But when they're together on that team, they look like such a well-polished machine. I'd say they operate really well. I think that's a pretty big clue to the team as well.
That'll give it away. Mm-hmm. Okay. They overperformed recently, right?
And you got to guess the year for when they overperformed.
This feels too easy. I'm going to go with the 2025 Jaguars.
What's the year they overperformed?
the 2020-2025 season when they randomly went to the playoffs after getting a first-year head coach and a bunch of new positions after having a top 5 pick.
So the year they overperformed, like the real Cinderella run, was 2018. I had, but I'll give you the point for the normal thing. You're just not going to get the bonus point. So,
Chat, let me down below if the 2025 Jaguars overperform.
You're still on track for 13 points. You're just not getting that bonus point. But it was a 2018 because they got it with Blake Bortles. Okay, Blake Bortles, man, that means something.
I was thinking about saying Blake Bortles for the GOAT question before.
Being said,
we got one final question. Yep. Oh, sorry, you saying something, John?
I was just going to say, that being said, we're down to our last one.
Yeah, and this one, it's Germany. Okay, now Germany, they've won a World Cup not too long ago. I think Alvaro was about to also add they've won a few other World Cups in the past. How many are they at?
4
World Cups.
Tied with Italy.
And the last one they won, was that 2018 or 2014?
2014.
2014. Okay, yeah, that was Brazil. They but they're historically they are best of the best, right up there historically. But if you're looking at the recent periods of history, they had some meh. Now for this NFL team, the meh is a lot more meh than the Germany. Germany's meh was kind of like mid meh. This NFL team was pretty down there. But recent periods of meh, despite being historically, right up there, best of the best. And right now, they have the tagline is young coaches leading them into a bright future. Now, Germany's coach, Julian Nagelsmann, I forget how old he is, but he's coached a couple of teams before. He's very young. And he's coming to this German team that they need to get back up there. They haven't won now in a couple of tournaments. They want to push themselves. And I think in many ways, Germany has always had a top 5 roster in these World Cups. They've always had some skill. That does not relate to the team that I'm relating it to, but just to give you some information there. But think about that young coach leading them into a bright future.
Okay. So I'm thinking, what first-time head coaches. That's what we're going with here in my head. And then teams that have a legacy.
So I wouldn't say necessarily for that. Though, never mind. You got it.
Okay. So, well, that throws a wrench in this a little bit. But I'm thinking first-time head coaches, old teams that have had chance to establish a legacy and kind of go through the waves. So that'd be like the 49ers, Dallas, Pittsburgh, Packers, but none of those teams. We already did the Ravens. They've got a young guy, but I think we're still uncertain about him. The Bears are in there. So which teams did we already do?
Don't just guess, man. Just think about it.
Trust yourself.
I'm thinking. That makes me think it's one of the ones I said at least. Ben Johnson, Chicago Bears.
There you go. 13 points from 13 questions, 15 points total. So you could do better, but you have an A. You did it.
I'm a soccer genius.
Sorry, you don't have an A. Never mind. You have a B. B+.
Okay, I got chat. Let me know down below. Like the Jaguars one, I still got beef with that.
No, because it's. I told you, like right now they've got a good chance, but they had that Cinderella run a few years back.
Ask the people in Duval County. I bet they'd say last year was a Cinderella run too.
No, last year they had a great team that performed very well. Like it's different. It's not the same. Like in 2018, they were not by any means like last year people expected them to do well. In 2018, no one saw that coming. I think this year they did what they should have done. They had a very good roster and they performed well and they had a good coach.
Okay, I didn't expect the Jaguars to do well last year, so
okay,
maybe that's on me. I'm sorry, Duval. Unless I'm right, then I'm not sorry. But
well, Anyway, just kind of close this up. You did a very good job on this, and as we get up, leading up to the World Cup, I know John's a Mexico fan, but I think I could speak for myself and Josh, where this is what it's all about. USA,
Indiana. I got a Fever jersey on. I don't know.
Yeah, any closing thoughts?
No, I don't have any, Jonathan.
Well, I think since the NFL isn't going to be playing this summer, if you ever get bored and want to watch something, recommend the World Cup. And then by the time it's over, the NFL will be coming back. So if you want a sport to watch, and just because it's in the U.S., support your country.
Hey, and the U.S., we're gonna play, like, our country's gonna have like maybe 4 or 5 games realistically. We only have 3 games on the schedule from the group, and then to win games after that, we have to make it to the tournament, and then we have to win, those tournament knockout games. So for those few U.S. games we have, show up, be proud, be excited for this country, right? This is a home World Cup. This is our turf, and we're gonna kick some ass.
I'm gonna have to bleep that later.
Oh, do we bleep? We're gonna kick some butt.
Yeah, kick some butt, because this is no buts about it. That's right. Sorry if you were listening with your children in the car, Stan. We'll calm him down later. But is that all? We good?
Yeah,
I think so.
Man, this show derailed there at the end. But thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton with the algorithm and such. Make sure to check out the World Cup. We'll be covering that along with all your NFL news right alongside that. I got a few other videos in the chamber that I'm working on here as far as draft grades go. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss those. Until next time, go do something nice for someone.